The Department of Health has confirmed the presence of an Omicron coronavirus subvariant called BA.2.12 in the Philippines.
The COVAX facility is set to replace millions of donated COVID-19 vaccine doses that already expired in the Philippines for free.
The Commission on Elections expressed hope that the actual elections on May 9 would be just as peaceful as the first day of the local absentee voting.
The next administration is set to inherit 88 infrastructure projects that are already on advanced stage under the Build program.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, April 27, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am William Theo.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue, social media accounts, and our website, untvweb.com. I am Mariela Toza.
First in the news, the Department of Health has reported a case of an Omicron coronavirus subvariant called BA.2.12 in the Philippines. It is a sublineage of the current circulating Omicron variant, which has been recently flagged by the United States Center for Disease Control. Aiko Miguel will give us the details live. Yes, Aiko, good evening. Go ahead.
William, good evening. The first detected BA.2.12 Omicron subvariant case was a 52-year-old Finnish female who arrived in the country last April 2 from Finland. According to the Department of Health statement, she was not obligated to undergo routine isolation at the quarantine facility because she was fully vaccinated and was asymptomatic. The lone case then traveled to a university in Quezon City and then to Baguio City to conduct seminars. The DOH also said 9 days since she arrived in the country, she experienced mild symptoms such as headache and sore throat. Her RT-PCR test result was positive for COVID-19 the next day. The local epidemiology and surveillance unit, or LEU, performed contact tracing. 9 asymptomatic close contacts were identified and 2 of them were tested and found to be negative. The case, Williams subsequently finished her 7-day isolation and has recovered and discharged. The patient returned to her home country last April 21, 2022. The DOH assures the public that the country's surveillance systems are able to detect new cases and characterize their lineage. BA.2.12 is not yet characterized by the World Health Organization as a new variant of interest, VOI, or variant of concern, VOC. Scientists are still characterizing these Omicron sublineages in terms of transmissibility and if they can cause more severe disease. Preliminary data have shown that their mutations are associated with higher transmissibility. However, William, there is currently no evidence that these sublineages cause more severe disease. The DOH reminds that the public can avoid all variants, whether new or currently circulating, by continuing to wear best-fitting masks, isolate when sick, double up protection through vaccination and boosters, and ensure good airflow, especially in enclosed spaces. And that is the latest live. Back to you, William.
Yes, thank you very much. Aiko Miguel reporting live from Quezon City.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government has called on barangays, election campaign organizers, and various groups to help enforce the minimum public health standards in their area. Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte reminded the voters to comply with the health and polling places on the May 9 elections. Rosa Licos reports.
Interior Secretary Eduardo Año said the Philippine National Police will be stricter in enforcing the minimum public health standards against COVID-19. This as the Secretary reported an alarming increase in health protocol violations from April 15 to 24, 2022 compared to the week before. such as non-wearing of face mask and physical distancing, as well as the conduct of mass gatherings.
So muli po tayong mag-i-stricto ang ating kapulisan sa pagpapatupad ng minimum public health standards.
The Interior Secretary also appealed to local government units, stakeholders, campaign organizers, and various groups to help in the implementation of minimum public health standards. Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte called on voters to comply with the public measures and health protocols in voting centers. This is amid concerns of experts over possible increase in COVID-19 infections after the elections.
It has something to do with the elections also, itong COVID-19. So, better, again, remember when you go to the electoral precincts, kindly tell yourself that you have to remember the things that government wants you to follow. So that hindi masyado tayo mahirapan and we will prevent another surge.
The President reiterated the importance of always observing the health protocols amid the decreasing COVID-19 cases.
We have a concerted effort, cooperate with government sa mga sinasabi namin kung ano ang mabuti, the things that we advise the people to follow, because it is intended solely, really for one purpose, and that is for the welfare of the people.
Millions of voters will flock to various polling centers in the entire country on May 9, 2022, and crowding is likely to take place in schools, according to the President. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Local absentee voting, or LAV, for the May 2022 elections has started. The Commission on Elections, or Comelec, expressed hopes that the actual elections on May 9 would just be as peaceful as the first day of the LAV. Dante Amento tells us why live. Yes, Dante, go ahead.
Good evening, William. Over 84,000 personnel from different government agencies, including members of the media, are expected to cast their votes for the 3-day local absentee voting, or LAV. Commissioner George Erwin Garcia disclosed that the poll body has not yet received any untoward incident during the first day of the LAV.
Initially, yung assessment napakaganda. Siyempre, generally na peaceful talaga. Wala namang untoward incident na report sa atin.
Garcia also reminds absentee voters to grab this opportunity, particularly those who failed to vote in the 2019 election, because they might be deactivated.
Take note, kapag hindi kayo nakaboto bilang local absentee voter, so yun ay isang hindi pagboto, and therefore kung kayo hindi nakaboto noong 2019 election, sigurado deactivated kayo by 2025.
Comelec Chairman Saidamin Pangarungan and Commissioner Amy Neri have also voted in the local absentee voting today at the Comelec main office. Meanwhile, members of the media flocked to the Regional Election Director's Office for Comelec NCR. The voting process was fast and smooth.
Yung mga ginawa po ngayon, medyo bago po sa akin, pero hindi naman po ako nahirapan kasi tinuro naman po. May nag-guide po kung paano po yung gagawin step by step.
Smooth naman, yun lang. Siyempre excited, tapos kinakabahan din kasi there's a lot at stake, no, dun sa election na ito. This is historic.
The voting hours started at 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 p.m. The poll body reminds local absentee voters that they still have until April 29, Friday, to exercise their rights to suffrage. Meanwhile, the Comelec is continuously distributing the Voters Information Sheet, or VIS, for all the voters nationwide. These VIS would help voters over their precinct information.
Makakatanggap kayo lahat ng Voters Information Sheet katulad na ng mga nakatanggap na po ngayon. At doon mismo, mabe-verify nyo yung mga bagay na halimbawa hindi nyo na-verify sa inyo pong precinct finder, sa ating precinct finder.
And that's our latest live from Quezon City. Back to you, William.
Yes, Dante, will the Comelec allow those who fail to vote in the local absentee voting to vote in the May 9 elections?
William, Comelec Commissioner George Garcia said that those who availed of the local absentee voting but did not vote during the said period can no longer vote on May 9, 2022 elections. William.
Okay, thank you. That was Dante Amento reporting live from Quezon City.
Over 37,000 public schools will be used as polling precincts in the upcoming 2022 elections. Teachers are also ready to serve as Board of Election Inspectors after undergoing training. Janice Inhente has this story.
More than a week before the 2022 national and local elections, 37,000 public schools nationwide are now prepared for the testing and sealing of the vote counting machines from May 2 to 7.
So po ay i-release lang na itong mga araw na ito hanggang May 2 to 7 po kasi yung ating final testing and sealing. Kaya po sa mga araw na ito, nire-ready na po ng ating mga teachers sa ating mga classroom.
Deputy Director of Public Affairs Services Marcelo Bragado said 300,000 teachers and school staff are also ready to serve as Board of Election Inspectors.
Ang ating pong mga DepEd personnel po ay ginawang electoral board, yung ating mga teachers. Meron po naman tayong mga DepEd officials na ginawang DESO. Sila po bali magpapaalala sa ating mga botante, itong ating mga DESO, kasama yung kanilang mga support staff at tinatawag na safety protocol officer. Sila po mag-remind sa mga botante na mag-disinfect, mag-sanitize, at mag-face mask po bago bumoto, at nang maiwasan po yung mga gathering, yung kumpul-kumpul po ng mga botante.
Meanwhile, none of the teaching and non-teaching staff have said they will step down as members of the Electoral Board. However, replacements are already in place.
Naka-ready naman po ang Comelec po, may kanya-kanya po kasing substitutes yung ating mga election officers sa mga lugar na yan. Meron nga po tayong tinatawag na mga areas of concern sa mga pangyayari na kung sakali po ay umatras ang ating mga guro o walang available o natatakot. Hindi naman po kasi mandatory ngayon ang ating election service, voluntary. Ang ating po mga kapulisan sa PNP ay naka-ready rin po na mag-substitute ng mga electoral board dahil siya naman po ay nag-undergo din ng training.
Under Comelec Resolution Number 10460, a BEI will receive honoraria, travel allowance, communication allowance, anti-COVID-19 allowance, and other service credits. Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police continues to establish plans and strategies in ensuring security and order with communities during the conduct of the national and local elections on May 9. Leia Ilagan reports.
Several radios, arms, guns, shields, bulletproof vests, and hazmat suits were given to PNP personnel who will be on duty on Election Day. This was during a simultaneous logistical readiness test and dispatch ceremony held at Camp Crame in Quezon City. There was also transportation equipment such as motorcycles and police patrols. Major General Ronaldo Olay, PNP Directorate for Logistics Director, said the equipment is not actually new but refurbished or properly maintained for use.
Meron tayong 15,000 plus na deployable transportation equipment to include 239 watercraft at yung meron din tayong aircraft, actually H-125 and R-44. Hinihintay lang natin na matapos ng SITJ yung investigation para ma-clear na ito para magagamit sa yung mga H125 natin, yung Airbus para magamit sa monitoring ng national and local elections.
PNP Chief Police General Leonardo Carlos says such logistical support is important in responding to any possible threat that will disrupt the elections.
This endeavor will further strengthen our deep sense of responsibility in the upcoming elections and minimize, if not prevent, the occurrence of violent incident that may disrupt the conduct of peaceful elections.
Nonetheless, General Carlos ensured peace and security until the new administration is installed.
We did not end on the day itself, but we will make sure of a smooth transition to the next leader of this country. Yan ang commitment ng Philippine National Police. So join us. Every member of the Philippine National Police, yan po yung gagawin natin.
Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The COVID-19 Vaccines Global Access, or COVAX facility, made a commitment to replace million doses of vaccines in the country that have expired. According to Health Secretary Francisco Duque III, this will be free of charge. Rosalie Coz reports why.
3.6 million doses of donated COVID-19 vaccines in the Philippines had already expired. According to Health Secretary Francisco Duque III, this is just 1.46% of the total vaccine inventory of the government. Duque revealed these COVID-19 shots will be replaced by the COVAX facility free of charge. The COVAX facility is a global vaccine sharing platform that aims to accelerate the development of COVID-19 shots and guarantee fair and equitable access. The health chief revealed this during the Talk to the People address of President Rodrigo Duterte aired this morning.
Yung pong COVAX, meron po silang stockpile ng mga bakuna with longer shelf life. So ang gagawin po, yung mga nag-expire na sa atin, umabot na po ng mga about 3.6 million doses, which is just about 1.46% of our total inventory ng bakuna. So yes sir, papalitan po yan. I-replace po ng COVAX facility.
The President, upon learning this, welcomed the move of COVAX. Meanwhile, Health Secretary Duque as well as Vaccine Czar Carlito Galvez are also asking the COVAX facility if it could replace procured vaccines that have expired. Rosalie Coz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The presidential elections will have a neck-and-neck battle between former Senator Bongbong Marcos and Vice President Leni Robredo, according to a political analyst. He also stressed the last presidential and vice presidential form of the Commission on Elections will be crucial for candidates. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
With more than a week left before the elections, candidates are ramping up their campaign. There will be a fierce battle in the presidential polls, according to political analyst Dr. Anboni Quanico. He predicted a neck-and-neck battle between Vice President Leni Robredo and former Senator Bongbong Marcos Jr., similar to the vice presidential race in 2016.
Kung ano pong maging resulta, ang tingin ko ay hindi malabong mag-neck-and-neck battle to sa dalawang malakas na kandidat sa pagka-presidente po.
Aside from the presidential surveys, Professor Quanico believes Marcos and Robredo will have a close fight when the election result shows. The political analyst said it might be similar to the vice presidential results in 2016.
Ang tingin ko, magagaya to po sa nung nangyari ng 2016 na presidential election din. Kasi kung magkabilang panig nyo, nagkiklaim sila na silang nananalo sa survey, yung isa naman doon sa Google Trends.
Based on the recent surveys, Marcos is still in the lead while VP Robredo remains in second place. Despite this, Robredo records the highest lead in percentage. As the campaign period ends, candidates are now boosting their campaign strategies to convince voters.
sa kandidatura ni Marcos, no, nagpapakita na siya ngayon, nagpapa-interview na din, no. Sa kandidatura naman po ni Leni Robredo, patuloy pa din niya tinataas yung kanilang campaign strategies kung saan ginagawa nila yung house-to-house na pangangampanya po.
Professor Quanico said the presidential and vice presidential forums to be conducted by the Commission on Elections will be helpful in convincing voters, even the undecided ones.
Dito yung make or break, yung last na debate, ang tingin ko lang malamang, no, magbago pa yung mga isip ng mga kandidato natin. Kung wala talagang maihain na magandang plano sa bansang Pilipinas, siguro doon sila sa higit na makapagbibigay po ng konkretong plano para sa ating bansa.
The political analyst also said surveys should not be the basis in determining the winners in the elections, since surveys are merely projections and not the actual results. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Presidential candidate Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. expressed concern over the alleged data security breach in the server of Commission on Elections. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
The issue on the alleged data breach in the Comelec server has caught the attention of presidential candidate Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. during a press conference in Cagayan de Oro. Marcos expressed his concern over the said issue.
Now, what am I worried about? I'm worried about when we talked about the security breach, pabago-bago ang istorya ng Comelec. Nung una, wala. Tapos sabi nila, may nagdala ng computer. Tapos dahan-dahan, nung may nakita na naman, may security breach nga, pero hindi importante yung mga nakuhang impormasyon. Tapos lumalabas sa dark web, yung impormasyon na kinuha, it's not unimportant. So, these are the things that I worry about. And these are the things that tinututukan namin to make sure na hindi na maulit.
Last April 23, the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center or CICC, with coordination with the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group, was able to apprehend the 3 hackers tagged as responsible for illegally obtaining election-related data from the Comelec. But CICC Executive Director Yusek Cesar Mancao assured the NEW that the May 9 polls will not be tainted with hacking-related cheating. Despite this, Marcos Jr. urges the public to be vigilant.
Well, we just have to be vigilant. We have to pay attention and make sure that nakabantay tayong mabuti, hindi lang kami.
Nel Maribohok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, less than 2 weeks before the elections, the ticket of independent candidate Vice President Leni Robredo made a change in its senatorial lineup by dropping one of its guest candidates. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
The ticket of presidential candidate and Vice President Leni Robredo has dropped Senate Majority Leader Juan Miguel Mig-Zubiri from its senatorial slate. In a statement, Robredo spokesperson Attorney Barry Gutierrez says the endorsement of Zubiri of another presidential candidate led to the decision. Robredo's camp maintains they are moving forward with only 11 candidates in their senatorial lineup. The Senate leader has expressed support to Bongbong Marcos and has been participating in the UNITEAM campaign of the BBM-Sara tandem. Zubiri is one of the guest candidates under the Robredo Pangilinan slate, along with Senators Richard Gordon, Joel Villanueva, former Vice President Jojo Binay, and Sorsogon Governor Cheese Escudero. The Senate Majority Leader was also dropped from the slate of Senator Panfilo Lacson and Senate President Tito Soto. Meanwhile, Robredo went back to the province of Bulacan, the 5th most vote-rich province in the country. She first attended a campaign rally in the town of Baliwag, where she was welcomed by her supporters.
Alam nyo, merong mga grupo ngayon na tinatrack yung mga activities ng lahat na kandidato. Sinasabi nila, ako daw yung pinakamarami ng lugar na napuntahan, kahit malalayong lugar pinupuntahan. Dahil kami po, walang malayo para sa amin, walang maliit, kahit konti lang yung botante doon, pupuntahan namin.
Bulaqueños also made a show of force in the grand rally held at the Malolo Sports Complex in Malolo City, Bulacan. Meanwhile, her running mate, Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan, campaigned in several parts of Metro Manila, including Malabon and Navotas. There, Pangilinan attended a volunteer Thanksgiving and held a meet and greet with fishport workers and traders at the Navotas Fishport. Earlier today, both Robredo and Pangilinan attended an interfaith prayer rally. Robredo will be visiting again Quezon Province tomorrow. Jorlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, U.S. President Joe Biden has taken his first steps on clemency under his term. The pardons and commutations are part of a broader effort to make the criminal justice system more fair, which was a key goal of Biden's 2020 presidential campaign. Justine Masakayan reports.
U.S. President Joe Biden issued his first pardon under his term, which includes 3 people, according to the White House. This includes Abraham W. Bolden, an 86-year-old former U.S. Secret Service agent who was charged in 1964 with attempting to sell a copy of a Secret Service file. Also in the list was Betty Jo Bogans, who was convicted in 1998 of possession with intent to distribute crack cocaine, and Dexter Eugene Jackson, who was convicted in 2002 for using his business to facilitate the distribution of marijuana. The chief executive also shortened the prison terms of 75 more who mostly committed non-violent drug crimes. Additionally, the Biden administration will allocate about $145 million to develop re-entry plans for incarcerated persons and to connect them to resources such as jobs, housing, and loans upon their release.
He also announced more than 20 major actions from a dozen agencies to expand second chance opportunities. This includes a first-of-its-kind partnership between the Department of Justice and the Department of Labor to invest $145 million in job training and intensive re-entry in federal prisons.
The administration also believes that helping those who serve their time return to their families is one of the most effective ways to reduce recidivism and decrease crimes. Justin Masakayan, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The United States is urging its allies to ramp up their efforts to keep the city of Kyiv in Ukraine well supplied with weapons as fears of the war expanding over the country's borders grow. May Viandog will tell us why live. May, good evening. Go ahead.
William, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has vowed to help Ukraine win the war in a meeting with NATO defense officials in Germany on Tuesday, with tensions between the West and Russia posing danger of a World War III. Mr. Austin emphasized the importance for officials to have a clear understanding of Ukraine's immediate security requirements and extending the forum by conducting a monthly contact group on Ukraine's self-defense.
And the contact group will be a vehicle for nations of goodwill to intensify our efforts and coordinate our assistance and focus on winning today's fight and the struggles to come.
The U.S. and its NATO allies are rushing to deliver artillery and other heavy weaponry ahead of the battle for Donbass, which has now become Russia's focus after failing to capture Ukraine's capital. Meanwhile, Poland and Bulgaria said Russia is suspending natural gas deliveries starting Wednesday after Russian President Vladimir Putin demanded payment in rubles instead of dollars and euros. Poland confirmed this week that it is sending more tanks to Ukraine and is well prepared for the GS cutoff after years of working to reduce reliance on Russian energy. Germany will also supply Gepard self-propelled armored anti-aircraft guns to Ukraine. Furthermore, William, diplomatic efforts continued as UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres agreed with President Putin that the United Nations and the International Committee of the Red Cross should be involved in the evacuation of the civilians trapped in the steel plant in Mariupol. Back to you, William.
Yes, thank you. Mavian Dog reporting live.
The European Commission claims that the European Union is set to enter a new post-emergency phase of the pandemic. Paul Gatchalian will tell us why live. Yes, Paul, go ahead.
Royal European Health Commissioner Stella Kyriakides has prepared a draft document on the management of the pandemic in the coming months, moving from an emergency to a more sustainable mode. The document comes after the European Union has seen a gradual decrease in infections and deaths due to the current pandemic. During this new phase, testing is to be targeted and the monitoring of COVID-19 cases should be tracked in a similar way to sample-based flu monitoring. The document further explains how new testing strategies should be designed, with an increased focus on genomic sequencing to spot new possible variants of the virus. The draft document is set to be adopted by the European Union today. However, it was reported that EU's document is non-binding, as it would be up to the World Health Organization to determine when the pandemic ends. EU governments had been advised by the UN agency to remain alert and, if necessary, be ready to return to its emergency measures. Back to you, Mariel.
You, Paul Gatchalian, reporting live.
Three wealthy businessmen completed with a space trip with NASA costing $55 million US for each person. Nerissa Dando will give us the details live. Yes, Nerissa, go ahead.
Good evening, William. The rich trio on Monday landed off the coast of Florida after closing a 17-day special mission tour with NASA from the International Space Station. Each person spent a whopping $55 million by the SpaceX aircraft. Their adventure unexpectedly got extended as well, from a week's worth to almost 3 weeks due to the weather keeping them in the orbit. This is the first private trip NASA finally agreed to open up for tourists into the space station, with access to all except the Russian portion of the station. They were escorted by ex-NASA astronaut now working for Axiom Space, astronaut Mike Lopez Alegria, who commented that despite the long adventure, it was amazing and more exciting than what he expected. After the successful hosting, NASA is now looking forward to immediately launching 3 more NASA astronauts on Wednesday to replace the current astronauts who are about to complete their own missions. William?
Yes, Nerissa, what are the future plans around continuing these adventurous trips to space?
William, Axiom is attempting to launch a second private flight to the station and then adding more rooms to the orbiting complex for customers by 2024. And Amazon founder Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin rocket company currently takes their customers on 10-minute trips just on the edge of the space. And Virgin Galactic will also start launching their rocket ships for flying customers later this year. Back to you, William.
Yes, thank you. Nerissa Dando reporting live.
88 infrastructure flagship projects under the Build, Build, Build program have yet to be completed. The infrastructure cluster says these projects have to go all the way to its completion in the next administration. Asher Kadapan Jr. reports why.
Full completion of every infrastructure project takes time as it involves a lot of planning, implementation, procurement, construction, and other works. The Department of Public Works and Highways explains this as only 12 out of 119 infrastructure flagship projects under the Build, Build, Build program were finished, with 19 more to be completed before the year ends. DPWH Undersecretary Emil Sadain says the completion of the other 88 projects are already being transitioned to the next administration.
Where are now the 88 other flagship projects? All of these are now in the advanced stage, 35 of these in the construction. We have 10 in the advanced stage of detailed design, 9 are in the procurement stage, and another 9 are in the perfections of the loan for new projects, while the other 25 are in the pipeline for review and approval by NETA and preparatory stage.
Sadain further says that some of these projects that already have approved budget and are already being implemented should be completed even after President Rodrigo Duterte's term. The National Economic and Development Authority agrees with it, explaining that the projects went through due diligence prior to approval.
In a sense, the project makes sense. It will bring economic benefit to the people, provide better welfare to the Filipino people who will benefit from all these projects that will be implemented.
International lending institutions, on the other hand, assure their commitment in completing the infrastructure projects beyond the Duterte administration.
And subject to those improvements, JICA is very happy to try to convince Tokyo to mobilize bigger and bigger resources for my Filipino colleagues for the brighter future.
Around 60% of our lending is on infrastructure. And ADB is committed to continue that going forward into the next administration. The Asian Development Bank remains very much committed to the Philippines. We believe infrastructure investments does help to improve growth, competitiveness, create jobs, and reduce poverty.
To help with the transition, the infrastructure cluster gathered in the IFP forum today to discuss issues, problems encountered, and the solutions provided in the efficient implementation of the projects. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, passengers will be able to continue enjoying free rides at the Metro Rail Transit Line 3 until next month. JP Nunez will tell us why.
The management of the Metro Rail Transit Line 3 would extend their free ride program until May 30. According to the management, as of 26th of April 2022, total of 7,227,434 passengers have benefited from the free ride. The extension of the free ride program hopes to continue ease the financial burden of commuters amid inflation and rising fuel prices. MRT3 General Manager Michael Kapati explains that the government has allotted around 7.5 billion pesos to sustain the program.
To continue providing assistance to the riding public in their commuting needs, management has decided to extend for another month the implementation of the free ride o yung libreng sakay na tinatawag natin.
Meanwhile, passengers were thankful for the free ride as their fare expenses may be diverted to their other needs.
Yung 40 pesos na yon, pwede mo pa siya gamitin sa ibang bagay like pambili ng cellphone load, ng mga everyday expenses like sa mineral water, sa bahay, mga ganun. O kaya sobrang malaking tulong ng 40 pesos na natitipid.
Pangkain din. Pag minsan pa yung pamasahe, minsan ipagkain mo na lang. Kaya nakaabil ko to talaga na libreng sakay.
Malaking tulong din po talaga kasi parang at least man lang nabawasan yung expenses ko ng pamasahe. At least yung masasahod ko sa isang buwan, hindi na siya nakakaltasan.
To avail the MRT free ride, simply tap your stored value or beep card at the ticket gate to enter and exit the platform. Your card will not be charged for the ride. Those without stored value or beep cards can get single journey tickets from the ticketing booth. The MRT management, meanwhile, reminds passengers that non-wearing of face mask, answering phone calls, and talking inside the train is strictly prohibited. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Our Kasangbahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word giving glory to God from the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verse 22 to 23. It says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And those are the reasons behind the news, April 27, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Maria Latoza reporting live from Perth, Australia.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.